episode of Booked, a place to explore the realms of creativity. Today's guest is William Beck. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm okay. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. I have been excited about this since we booked it in. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about your work and about your process as a writer. We had a call months and months and months ago, I remember.
Yes.
It was ages ago when we first started talking about doing all this stuff. And it seems like a million years ago.
Yeah, it's wild how much things have changed since then, isn't it?
Really, yeah. I'm interested to hear about all the stuff you're doing. So, before I ramble myself into an abyss, could you introduce yourself and tell the listeners a little bit about what to expect from your work?
So, I'm William Beck, and I guess I'm a horror writer. It's something I sort of fell into in that I was a fantasy writer. I think it's safe to argue I've not published a fantasy story yet. But as reasons we'll probably get into a bit later, I've sort of found horror as my default genre. So,
Interesting.
yes, I guess I'm a horror writer. I think I've penned it as hopeful horror. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's me.
That's nice. Hopeful horror is nice. When I read A Mother's Porcelain, I was like, I can't wait to have this interview. It's so good. I really liked it. It's so well written and atmospheric and creepy. I was like, oh, I love horror books. I'm a big fan of horror books. So you're an accidental horror writer. Is it because you did you like start writing something and then it just transformed into a horror thing, or did you fall into writing exclusively horror stuff? Like, how did that work?
So, what actually happened was I've had a fantasy story that's been on and off since 2015.
Okay.
And then post-pandemic, I was like, right, I want to get back into stuff. Started dabbling with that and like a romance book that's been long since abandoned. And then fell into a really bad spell of depression. And one of the things that helps me through that is mood writing. So I just sort of write down little atmospheric details of how I'm feeling, stuff in the room to sort of ground me, and then just put it to one side and forget it. And then as I came back to looking over them a few months later when I was in a bit of a better place, I noticed it all kind of read as like a haunting. And I thought, that's kind of an interesting idea to me of like exploring this like haunted ghost story, but about depression. So I started writing that, and then I got really into writing that. Then got into my head about it for a long time, and then sort of just found someone on Twitter, and we were sort of like, oh yeah, let's trade some stories. Gave it to them, and they loved it. So I sort of like, it's like, okay, some of this I was kind of thinking it's either going to work or it's going to be the most embarrassing thing you could do. And then because it got a really good reaction, I thought, I'll put some feelers out. I joined like a horrors writers chat on Twitter that's now on Blue Sky. And then everyone seemed really interested in the idea. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing this story now. And that's how my debut novel came about.
How funny. It's funny how things work like that, though, because I think when you set out to make a solid plan of something, especially when it's something around like a creative endeavor, it oftentimes will evolve far beyond the realms of what you think it's going to look like. And sometimes you just got to go into your wheelhouse, and apparently your wheelhouse is atmospheric horror, which is great. And I think it's cool that you were able to use a difficult time in your life to, I don't know, use art as a tool, because that's what I think most writers are troubled souls.
Yes.
And or like haunted in some way, plagued by thoughts that the healthiest thing to do is to write them down rather than like start experimenting with a dead crow in the garden. So it's a good, but it's a way to be able to sort of express yourself, and it's also a way to explore the what ifs of like, what if I'd have done it this way, or what if it got much much worse? How would I handle that? Because I think we also channel ourselves into the characters that we write.
Yes, and that's very much true. So the novel was, well, novella. It was a survivor's eye, and
Mm-hmm.
it wound up again accidentally having three protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
So it jumps between their POVs, and they all came about with me looking at how I handled depression at three of the worst spells of it in my life, and how they are all very different people who went
Mm-hmm.
through those experiences. So that to me became quite an interesting little piece when I was still just writing for me, being like, oh, this is how I handled that situation that time around,
Mm-hmm.
and yet here's how it did that. And then, so the story for it is basically it's like a old slash, like a Halloween Friday the 13th, but it's
Mm-hmm.
set after that with the survivors who are sort of like trapped living that night over and over again, and
Mm-hmm.
how the trauma of that just sort of like makes them still see that killer around every corner, and it becomes this obsession with them, and
Mm-hmm.
how they have to come to terms with escaping the shadows they've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how it sort of fed into, oh, there's three different ways to well, there's a lot more than three different ways. The three different ways I've handled it,
Mm-hmm.
and then letting them sort of interact with each other.
That's interesting. So, do you think that those three different periods of your life where you handled it in those different ways, was that like an evolution of like, okay, so it didn't work that time around, I'm going to try it a different way, or was it just three different periods that you looked back on, in terms of your depression and how you handled things?
I don't think I've ever, in those moments, gone, this didn't work, I'm
Mm.
going to try something else. I think it's just how it comes to you. Like,
Mm.
as people, we're always constantly changing anyway. And
Yeah.
if someone says something to you one day, they could say that exact same thing another day, and you will have a completely different reaction to it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's something like one of those times was when I was a teenager, and
Mm-hmm.
unsurprisingly, that was the darkest timeline.
Mm-hmm.
um, Whereas I've had a bit more of an optimistic outlook in later experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really been a case of directly choosing, oh, well, this is what I
Mm.
did last time, didn't work. It's
Yeah.
just sort of how I react in like a fight or flight with myself kind of thing.
That makes sense. I think a lot of it is like instinctual rather than like a conscious choice. Because I think about the times where like I also suffered with depression through my life as well, so I can absolutely empathise. And sometimes you're in a state where like literally nothing matters, and you're like, "Fuck this, I don't care,
Yeah.
whatever. This is never gonna get better. This is my life now." And then sometimes I think later in life definitely I can look at it and go, it's going to be really awful for possibly a couple of months, and then one day I'll wake up and be fine, and it just sort of happens, and you don't realize you're gradually getting out of it.
Yeah.
And I think being able to share stories with people and say like these are how these people theoretically William dealt with these phases of their life, and they're still here to tell the tale, and that's really important. And that's something that I think is when you have the ability to share your experiences with anything to do with negative mental or physical health, where you've actually come out of it and you're okay, not necessarily 100% of the person that you were before that event, but that you're still here, you're still telling the story, I think it inspires a lot of hope in people and allows them to go, maybe tomorrow will be better. And that's very cool. I think it's cool that you're able to share that.
I think that's how I've chosen to spend a lot of my life, sort of wearing those problems, honestly,
Mm.
being open with it, because then, like, everyone's gone through something in their life, and even if they can't take what you've gone through and go, oh, okay, I know the right answers,
Mm-hmm.
you can at least help guide them through it a bit better than you went through. And I think that's just
Mm-hmm.
sort of a nice way to treat people of really of just, okay, look, it was a shit time for me. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a shit time for you, but let's make it
Mm-hmm.
a little nicer.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that what something that you hope that people are going to get from that particular book?
Yes.
Is that it's this is how you can get out the other side.
Yeah, it's very much a case of I never set out. I'm a horrible pantser with my writing. I've tried plotting books, and it's just existential dread. Like if I try, but of the three characters, one was introduced literally for me to kill them off in a flashback, and then they became a main character, and then another one was designed to die as like a big turning point in the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't happen. None of them behaved anywhere near as how I expected them to.
How funny.
And that was very much a defining moment of, okay, I guess I've just got to lean into, I know my characters. I've just got to
Mm-hmm.
throw them in a scenario and see where we go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess a lot of what comes out in the end is where I then look back and think, oh, there was something there about how their journeys have ended. Of like, I like that. Now let's go back and sort of make that seem intentional.
And nobody would know unless they listen to this episode. So, okay, I've got a question for you. So, if you are basing any characters on yourself, whether it be like particular characteristics, experiences that you've had, do you ever battle with yourself? There's a reason why I'm asking this. Do you ever battle with yourself where you're writing it, you go, well, I wouldn't have done that in real life, so that's not getting in there? Do you ever like question the reality of it being you reflected on the page?
That's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
I guess yes and no.
Okay.
So when I start with any character, there's always someone in mind, whether it is myself or, like, say, for example, I've done a new character and gone, she's got some characteristics of Saf. So you'd be the starting point,
Mm-hmm.
and then as it goes and they find their own feet a bit more,
Mm-hmm.
there's less rule structure of, oh, well, Saf wouldn't do that. It's like, well, maybe not, but
Mm.
this character would, and that's how you change as a person,
Okay.
and then flesh it out when I go back on the redraft.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better because the book I'm working on is very, it's not even loosely based on me, it's me in this book, which is so narcissistic, but it's for a purpose. And it's really taken so much effort mentally for me to be able to cast aside that I wouldn't do certain things, and actually use it as the opportunity for me to be somebody else and go, well, actually, I'd like to have the guts to be able to do this thing, so let's make her do this instead. I was just curious if you also experienced that. Thank you for answering my random question.
You worried
I
about
also like.
narcissism when I've just said three of my characters were based on me. So I completely get it.
So, in terms of the horror elements in your work, then, so with your you basically stumbled into it, from what I can tell, which is not a bad thing because that's how a lot of if it naturally comes to you, you may as well do it.
Yeah, that's sort of what I've learnt into accepting.
Yeah. Do you feel, because it seems like you have horror elements in all of your work?
Yes.
Is that something, or most of it, almost all of your work?
So it's tough when it comes to one of them because it's a Christmas Carol adaptation.
Yeah. Uh huh.
So it depends on how strict you are on horror elements because it's still haunting. It's still a ghost story,
Mm-hmm.
but it's less about scaring you.
Mm-hmm.
Although I suppose it also is in a way, isn't it? Because it
Oh
is
yeah,
scaring
some
him
random
straight.
old men. Yeah, turning up in my bed. No thanks.
So yeah, I guess there's still always that flavour to it, at least.
Mm.
Whether it's diluted or not, it's a different matter. Like A Mother's
Mm.
Porcelain's not one I'd class as my hopeful horrors.
No, not particularly hopeful, but it's very good. It's very
Well,
good. I
thank you.
super enjoyed it. You're welcome. Um, I love creepy stuff like that, though. I love it. So, you mentioned that you previously wrote fantasy, but that didn't make it out yet. Is that something that you think that you will put out into the world, or is that like William's
I
little secret
definitely
fantasy book?
still want to put it out.
Okay.
I, again, living in existential dread my whole life, there's that bit in my head going like, oh, is it building it up too much now with it being 10 years? And be like, it's not been a 10-year wait for everyone. It's been a 10-year wait for me.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny because I totally understand what you're saying. Like, you're the only person that is going to impact.
Yeah, if I release that next year, most people would be like, oh yeah, he talked about that 6 months ago. That's cool. And I'm thinking like, they're going, no, you don't understand. This has been so much of my life for this stupid story.
It's not stupid
Oh, it
because
is.
you wrote it and it's important. You have to remember that you are going to be your worst critic, and you are very harsh on yourself. So, like, everybody else, even if they're mean, never going to be as mean to you as you are. So it can't be that bad if you can survive your own criticisms.
But when I say stupid story, it's not entirely self-deprecating. It it's a lot more of a sillier Terry Pratchett-esque kind of fantasy, which
Mhm,
again I sort of fell into because I didn't
mhm,
actually know Terry Pratchett at the time until I wrote a couple of chapters.
mhm,
Asked my roommate at the time, and they were like,
mhm.
"Oh, have you read Mort?" And then they lent me Mort, and I
Oh,
was like, "This is exactly what I'd kind of like to read." So I guess I'm just gonna put my writing to one side and read some Terry Pratchett for a while.
well, that's cool. But think about how many thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of kids and young adults and adults that Terry Pratchett's work has inspired.
Yeah, yeah, it's brilliant. And then think of the pressure when you say, "Oh yeah, it reminded me accidentally of Terry Pratchett," and it sounds like you're trying to say you're the next Terry Pratchett when you're not. Mm.
You could use that to your advantage and make a whole big joke out of it. I'm just saying. You could like fully run with it. You could change your name to a very similar name. You could have very similar covers, slightly different wording. Like, oh god, was it Pal World? Was a
Oh, the
game that
Pokemon
came
thing.
out
Yeah,
that's just Pokemon with
guns.
swords and stuff. You could be like the Pal World of the Terry Pratchett land. I don't know if that would work. You could try it. That could be brilliant or terrible.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that you should take my advice because it's usually not very good, but you can have that idea for free. I won't even charge you.
we'll see how it goes when it comes out.
So, do you think that you're going to add some horror elements to it, or is it going to lean more towards like young adult? Is it going to be more for like older people? Is it going
So
to have swear words and stuff in it?
that's also an interesting thing I grapple with a lot.
Okay.
I can never consciously pick a target audience.
Hmm.
I noticed it a lot with Then, which is how I think it fell into the Terry Pratchett thing, where it's sort of it feels accessible until it's not.
Hmm.
Like it's all like, oh yeah, I'd let my kid read that, and then you get to a couple of the bits and you're, okay, no, maybe not quite. um, One of the current stories I'm working on, I did go in my head and think, oh, this will be a middle grade sort of fantasy horror story.
Mm-hmm.
And then as it went on, it sort of became, is it going to be too intense for kids?
Mm.
Or is it absolutely not and I'm overthinking it? So then I just wound up reading a lot of middle grade horror and being like, no, I'm fine.
I don't know if you've read any Goosebumps. They are scary as heck.
Oh, don't.
They're not for kids.
One of my most traumatic memories as a kid, my mum got me a Slappy doll.
Did she hate you?
I don't think she understood how easily terrified I was. And it was like, it wasn't life size replica, but it was like, it was something from an Argos, and you put some batteries in, and it's sort of like slipped back inside on its own.
No,
My cat
I
set it off
can't.
that night, so I was just a kid in my own room, and then Slappy started going off.
No, that's
Yeah,
not cool. That's not cool. Okay. Was that the one that you found the scariest?
it probably is because
Okay.
I think I'm still embarrassingly creeped out with dolls. Probably large part because of Slappy.
Yeah, but dolls are creepy as
Oh
shit.
yeah, they're horrible.
Yeah, they're awful. They are like if I was at a hotel, like a B&B, and I saw a doll in one of the rooms, you best believe I'm taking that hit. I'll pay for it, but I'm not staying there. I don't want to get killed in my sleep by the creepy porcelain doll. I The scariest Goosebumps book for me was It Came From Under the Sink or Came From Beneath the Sink with the haunted sponge that lived
Oh yeah,
in the pipes. The sound description of that sponge ruined my sleep for months. That thing was scary as hell. I don't know why I was so scared of a sponge. I still, when there's weird noises in the pipes, I'm like scared, ready to karate chop a haunted sponge. Awful.
it's interesting how it
So,
does stuff like that. Like there's one that wasn't scary except for one bit, and it's lived in my head, and it's like
mm-hmm,
one of like deep troubles or something, and it's not any of the actual like evil fish or anything
mm-hmm.
like that. He's just swimming, and then like I think he touches some coral reef, and it's like the sharp pain and all that, and that lives in my head if I go swimming, just being like there's sharks, there's all this, and now there's evil just reef that will just hurt me.
Yeah, just brush against some evil. I Oh, another one that really got me that still to this day I can't look at a castle without thinking about it. Always looking at castles. I'm not. Is the description of it's in Bram Stoker's Dracula of Dracula climbing up the wall.
Oh yes,
Fucked me up. That was scary as shit. It was so scary. I just love things like that. Things that are visceral and things that you can absolutely see in your mind. It's the best kind of writing. The best kind of writing. I want it to fuck me up a little bit. If it's horror, I want to be like, ugh, I don't like that. Put it in the freezer. Um, so in terms of your process as a writer and we've already talked a little bit about your character development and an inspiration for one of your works. But from the moment that you think of an idea to the moment that you've like finished it and you think, yeah, I'll let people read this. Does it vary in length? Do you have like the same process each time? Is it pretty organic? Like, how does that work for you?
it's definitely not entirely organic because there's a lot of me trying to find a sense of structure and
Mm.
rhythm, and I think I've finally come to terms with the fact that a lot of that is just how it's baked into you from being a kid. That being a pantser is not the correct way.
Yeah.
And it's I remember I always used to get told off at school for where if there was like a writing assignment, I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
touch it until day or two before it because it was like, no, once I start, I'm going with it. So well, you've
Yeah.
got to work out how you're doing this, this, and this. Like, if I do that, my brain switches off. I'm not interested in the story
Mm.
now because I've seen how it ends. I've seen exactly all the beats to go into, so I'm not interested in
Mm.
going there,
Interesting.
which isn't particularly helpful as a writer.
But isn't it though? I think, but it works for you. Everybody's got their own way of doing stuff, and if pantsing is your thing, then you own it. Do it. That's if that's how you want to do it. Nobody's grading it. I mean, people do rate them on Goodreads, but nobody's grading your work. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's going back and going, "Oh, I don't see a plan here at the beginning of the book." Nobody cares as long as it works and it flows. Your excitement for writing that story is the most important thing because if you don't have interest in it, why should anybody else give a shit
Yeah,
about it?
and that's what I've sort of tried to lean into more and more as
Mm-hmm.
I've come along. Like a mother's porcelain, that took a long time to find my feet with it
Hmm.
because, again, as an accidental story, I I've always, like we said, I've always found dolls creepy, and there's always
Mm.
been like well, if I'm going to write horror, that's something that's always creeped me out. I should do that, and then
Mm.
I'd just be like, yeah, but then I just feel like I'm writing another Chucky, and I love Chucky.
Yeah.
I don't need to write another Chucky. There's so many great ones already
Mm.
out there. And then I listen to Books in the Freezer podcast, and they
Mm-hmm.
had an episode all about doll horror,
Mm-hmm.
and just listening to them talk about it is like, oh, there's different ways you could do that. So then got an idea, wrote the end of that book,
Hmm.
just as like a test to be like, does this idea have actual legs to it?
Yeah.
It's going to sound egotistical. I creeped myself out rewriting it.
That's great though.
But went, okay, this is uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
writing it because I've really got into that character's mindset in that horrible moment and been like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's something I want to explore. Let's go back and see how I get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I'd had an ending. So I was like, right, I know where I'm going. Now I need to find out the strands that would take me there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas normally I'm more comfortable picking a scene, throwing them there, and then being like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, find your own way out. I'll just follow and make notes.
Like a field
Yeah.
researcher for these imaginary people. That's great. So when you're okay, so when you worked backwards and you were trying to find all the connecting points, how do you do that? Is it a like a mental space that you have to get into? Do you draw things? Do you have a spreadsheet? Is there a specific notebook? I know you like notebooks. I love notebooks. I'm just wondering when they come in.
I need notebooks to write, and they need to be themed.
Oh, you have themed ones. Ooh, I love that so
it's
much.
it's a very strange quirk that I don't know how it started. My
Mm-hmm.
earliest memory of it was my granddad once when we were just out shopping, and he just
Mm-hmm.
bought me a free pack of random notebooks that all had different, like, they weren't even like any designs on them. There was just like different textures. Like one was like a scaly thing with like a
Ah.
green shimmer, and then one was a bit more standard. And then my mind
Mm-hmm.
went, well, what if I write something that feels like that would be the poster for it?
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of seems to be how I have to write now.
That's so
If there's
cute. I love that.
so if I've got a story, the notebook's got to feel like it could fit sort of in that world, or at
Mm.
least give me that atmosphere. And I do think that's a good way of staying in that mindset when you're looking at it.
Mm.
Like if I'm writing a book about
Like that.
being deep in the sea, if it's
Uh-huh.
got sharks or horrible deep sea wildlife on it, I'm instantly in that mindset.
Horrible deep sea wildlife. This is the second time you've talked about sharks. Do you have a fear of the ocean?
Yes.
Okay, that's I guess right then. Are you going to write a deep sea, or have you already? I missed it.
So there is one story I've been kicking around, which is
Okay,
a creature feature but in reverse. So it's
a feature creature.
yes, I
I'm
guess.
sorry. That was unnecessary. I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry.
But it's more like Jaws, but Jaws is the one being hunted by the people.
Oh, I like that.
So I just sort of thought that would be an interesting way to write because I love creature feel like Lake Placid
Mhm.
and Deep Blue Sea. They're like my guilty pleasure. I'm there for anything like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But I also love the angle of yeah, but most of them are just animals, and some people have just got in the way.
That's true. We do get up in animals' grills, and then we're like, "Get out the way! We want to chop down these trees and take your habitat."
Yeah.
I mean, not in the ocean.
Well, no, but like Anaconda, it's a bunch of people who've just gone into this rainforest to steal some stuff. And then there's a snake there. That snake's obviously going to eat you. You're in his habitat, threatening it.
Literally, if somebody was in my house trying to steal my stuff, I think I'd probably try and bite them as well.
And as someone who's been terrified of sharks since, like most people, terrified of sharks since I saw Jaws way too young
Mm-hmm.
and lived in a coastal town, so the sea was very much always there,
Just looming.
which meant Jaws was always there. I've always been fascinated by them, and I have always been scared of sharks, but also very aware of how horribly treated they are by people. It's like they are the
Mm-hmm.
victims in their own horror story.
Mm-hmm.
Where yeah, if I look at a shark, I'm going to be terrified it's going to rip my leg off. And all the things I've heard over the years where people try and make them sound nicer, make them scarier to me. Like, it used to have. This is going to be a tangent, I'm sorry in advance.
Oh no, please, I'm so excited. I'm here for it. Please tell me.
Like, there used to be the rogue theory, which is sort of where Jaws came from, where a shark might get a taste for blood,
Yeah.
and that's when it'll go for that. And then, obviously, because of how that went with people being horrible and hunting down sharks,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of push to disprove it and be like, well, no, they don't get that taste for blood or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more they're curious and they come up and just see what you are because they think you're a seal. And I was like, that's worse. I can deal with a dickhead shark in a sea of normal sharks. If you tell me every single one of them might do it by mistake, that's worse for me. I mean, it's like saying there's some dickheads out there who might stab me. But if I think every single person out there's got a knife and might accidentally do it, it's worse. And that's how my brain sort of unravels with it all.
I so get you though. I so get you, and it's that funny irrational fear. I was scared of sharks from I made my parents let me watch made them. I asked them a lot of times, and then they finally gave in. I wanted to watch Deep Blue Sea because I was like, that looks cool as shit. Oh my god! And then I watched it, and I was like, that's the worst thing ever. That's the worst thing ever. And I thought, what if that happens to me? As if I'm going to get myself in that scenario ever. And then because I grew up in Kent along the coast, I come from a coastal town. You used to be able to see the sea from my bedroom. When I found out that there were sharks in Cornwall, I was like, we're fucked. We're fucked. They're so close. They weren't close. It was so far away. I mean, close for sharks. They could swim miles and miles and miles. And I was like, great. Now I can't ever go in the sea again because I might die. And I get you.
Yeah.
Because they're just there lurking.
Exactly. And
Ready.
they're all the nice sharks, but they don't know what I am.
Yeah, well, these ones are bull sharks. They're bull sharks in Cornwall, and they are bastards. I mean, they're supposed to be aggressive. They're like one of the most aggressive species.
Yeah, because them and like Mako ones as well, I think, with the needle teeth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's at a point, my fear for that was so bad as a child that even now, when you see like the odd report in the newspaper, it's like the Sun saying, oh, shark spotted on the coast of England, I'll send it to my mum and be like, see, I wasn't crazy.
They're coming. Well, the tides are rising. Global warming, they're coming closer. I'm not trying to scare you, William, but they are getting closer and closer to the doorstep every day. It's funny how you have this fear, but you also are like, oh, these poor little guys. Yeah. Let me make them the victims. That's nice. Do you think that writing that is going to help you work through some of that fear, or are you trying to humanize them?
I have long since given up trying to get over that fear.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I did, and is it 3 times? So I remember there was one where we went on like a pirate ship, and then it was brilliant. Wasn't thinking about sharks at all. We were quite far out, and then you have to walk the plank, and then you like swing off a big rope. And the second I hit the water, there's a scene in Jaws where there's a swimmer hanging onto a boat, and you just see it just under the surface come and bite the guy's leg off. It was in my head, and I just turned white as a sheet and couldn't move. I went into full panic attack.
Oh.
Then the next time I tried to brave them, there was a shark warning, and we had to be taken out of the sea.
Where were you?
That had been like Spain or Tenerife.
Oh, not the UK.
No. These were all holiday things where it's like,
okay,
I'm gonna be brave, I'm gonna face my fears. And for that one, me and my mum we had a lilo and we were alternating. One of us on the lilo, one swimming along, doing that. And then lifeguard comes running along the beach, blowing whistles for us all to get out. And it's just amazing, like, I'm hanging on the side of this lilo right now.
Classic scary film scenario.
Yeah.
Oh no. Do swimming pools get you?
They used to. It'll occasionally still go into my head, but not as badly.
It goes through my head if it makes you feel any better. I still, like, especially if it's, like, a little bit deep, and if you're at one end, but you can't see the bottom of the other because it's darker. And I used to have this recurring nightmare where a killer whale and a giant squid would be, like, in my public swimming pool in Folkestone, where I used to live. And I was like, great, now I can never swim again, because what if they come and attack me and kill me? And then I went swimming with my dad. I was really small. I was, like, 8 or something. And I, like, recently was having these recurring nightmares, and I was like, I've just got to get back on the horse. Get back on the seahorse. And then we were at it was like, there were like 3 pools, I think. There was like a tiny one that was like 2 foot deep or something like that for like little kids. And I was like, I'll go in this one. I'm not going in the big one. And my dad was like, there's a shark! And I thought, fuck! No, I probably didn't think fuck. I probably thought, because I was 8. But somebody put a bloody goldfish in the pool. In that poor goldfish. Someone released a goldfish. To this day, I'm not sure whether or not it was my dad. I don't think it was. It might have been.
But he saw an opportunity.
Yeah, it worked because I was scared. It was just a goldfish.
I will say, though, whilst pools get me less, one of the most embarrassing ones is, like, if you're going under a bridge or something and there's, like, that tiny bit of water but you can't see it. It's, like, pitch black.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. I need to touch my phone, because if you can't see it, anything could be there.
How often are you walking under bridges? Is this a common thing that happens
Not now,
to you? Do you live near a lot of bridges?
In a previous place, if you went to Tesco, coming back, you had to go under a bridge, and it had a little canal next to it.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah. I was like, what in the troll hunting hell are you doing?
Well, fantasy research, obviously.
Oh, that was a good answer. Okay, fair enough. That's fair enough. That is a legitimate reason to have to go under a lot of bridges. That's something that I think I struggle with fantasy. I don't think I could ever write fantasy. Is that I like to draw draw from experiences and things that I know and things that I can touch and smell and lick and I can use my actual senses other than reading to experience that thing. I find it so hard to imagine things that don't already exist. Yeah. Does that come easy for you? Is that something that you can do?
It does to a point. I struggle with names in like fantasy and hard sci-fi things. Like saying to my friend just the other day, because she's beta reading a fantasy book now, and saying one of the things I always struggle with, I love The Hobbit. It's still a brilliant book. I could only tell you one dwarf's name, and I don't know how many times I've read it. And I only remember it because everyone fancied him when the films came out.
Gimli?
Obviously.
Fucking heartthrob, that guy. Oh. Fun fact, did you know that Bill Bailey, I think he tried out for he interviewed, no, that's the word. Auditioned. Fucking hell. Auditioned for the part of Gimli.
No, I did not, but that would have been harder to take it seriously.
I think so. I love Bill Bailey so much.
I love Bill Bailey, and I'm trying to picture him side by side with Legolas.
Right? You wouldn't be able to take your eyes off of him.
It's strange, because I'm thinking I'd struggle going like, well, I know how tall he is, but I know John Rhys Davies is taller.
Yeah. The magic of the... I said internet. What the fuck?
The magic of the internet.
The magic of the internet making everybody look smaller than they are because they're on that tiny screens. Oh my god. Honestly.
Maybe it would have worked. I'm trying to think.
What, Bill Bailey?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's pretty good at a lot of stuff. Because you like Black Books, right? I'm rewatching it at the moment. Oh my god. I wish I was as cool as Bernard Black. I just want to be Bernard Black. I don't know if it's because I want to be friends with Bill Bailey or if it's because I want to be able to drink.
An excessive alcoholic and get away with it.
Yeah. But for that to be like my thing, a lovable curmudgeon that owns a bookshop and drinks all the time, I think you could get away with that anymore. It's a shame.
No, would be quite the life. Although, again, I feel like I'd fall into the Manny position.
Yeah, yeah. I fear that I'm more like Fran than I hope. She's great, but
Not
when
not a
it's
person you'd want to be, though.
no, she's got too many hang-ups.
I do feel like I was like Manny when he went working next door for Simon Pegg.
I literally am like an episode away from that episode as well. They just got back off of holiday and they found the Goliath books. Um,
It's one of my favourite episodes, but I'm now thinking when I started working in retail, I feel like that very much was my energy. It's like, look, they've got the machine that goes do 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 do.
yes, he embodies that retail experience very, very well. If you're a reader or a writer, um, absolutely check out Black Books. It's fantastic. It's such a good series. I'm not going to tell you
Absolutely.
any more than that. It's great. It's very funny. Anyway, that was such a weird tangent to go off on, but I was like, oh, I'm recently watching that. We're talking about Bill Bailey. That's how my brain works. And now I'm rubbing my hands together like a villain as well.
I know, what
So
have you got next?
I don't know. I might play some Elden Ring. Who knows? So I remember when I was adding your bio to your Indiosyncrasy author feature that you are an advocate for mental health, which I think we've talked about already at the beginning of the show. But I know that you also enjoy sort of inclusive characters in work. I vaguely remember you saying something about there being a representation of people that have POTS in a particular book that you read that you really
Oh, yes.
appreciated. So why is that important to you, and what can other writers do to sort of be more inclusive and make people feel seen?
So it's sort of important to me in a selfish way of because I have it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never really discussed as a kid. So when you read a book, everyone had their own little quirks, but there was never any real anxieties or inner struggles as much with stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
particularly with my, we'll call it IBD, because it's currently I'm diagnosed as ulcerative colitis, and they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
see if it's Crohn's disease.
Okay.
Um, but that started when I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't even really know what it was,
Mm-hmm.
and no one knew what I had. There was nothing in the media to relate to because it just wasn't there. So I couldn't go, oh, that seems like what I've got. It just became this whole inner turmoil of, right, no one knows what I have.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way of dealing with this. So I'm now a burden. And I'd find myself withdrawing from situations where it'd be like, oh, we're having a house party at such and such. Do you want to come and be like, I know something's going to happen at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and now the fact that there's nothing around it, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way of fixing it. There's no answers, so it's going to feel like I'm sort of making it up and attention seeking. So
Yeah.
then I'd just be like, it's easy to just say no and not do anything.
Yeah.
So I feel like including just bits of that can, in theory, at least, help people who have those things, whether they know them or not,
Mm-hmm.
just feel a bit less alone with it. And with
Mm-hmm.
like POTS as the example, I don't have that,
Yeah.
but my friend does. And reading about it was sort of like a glimpse of I see how this struggle affects all of these different things, and I feel like I've got a
Mm-hmm.
bit of a better understanding of what you're living with,
Yeah.
rather than obviously it's my friend. I know when she's having bad flares with things like that, but you're not seeing the day to day existence like you would if it's the character.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a lot of why I think it's really helpful. It's a good way of relating to someone, and
Mm-hmm.
as an outside perspective, it might help you go like you're like Always Sunny.
Yeah.
The episode where Mac does the big dance where he's coming out to Frank.
That made me cry. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
moment of I get it.
Mm-hmm. I think it is far easier for us to empathise when we are looking at um, characters. You know, these people who all these choices have been made, whether it be TV, film, music, written work, whatever it is. Conscious decisions have been made for those characters, and we tend to be able to sympathize and empathize better when we're experiencing people that aren't real,
Yeah.
because all those things that have been presented to us are important in some way to the structure of the plot, or to get you to feel more for that person. Oftentimes when we're reading, especially, we're in the book, we're in that character's head, especially if it's things like first person, or you're getting quite visceral descriptions of things. I find that I think it was Paul Hampton who wrote When Life Was Yellow. I think it's got a longer name than that, and I'm terrible at remembering names of things. I'm so sorry, Paulette, if you're listening to this. I've already said how great I think the book was, but it was a memoir about her life with obsessive compulsive disorder. Oh. And that's something that a friend of mine, in fact, I've known her for 20 years, and for a huge portion of that time, I was like, oh my God, this again. Because I didn't get it. And I was like, oh God, you want attention? Okay, I get it, blah, blah, blah. And I will admit I was a shitbag, and I can't believe, looking back on it, that I was so dismissive of it. But then reading it somehow was different.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so this is what was going through your mind, or this is how it impacts your day-to-day life. I really wish I'd have taken it more seriously, like, earlier on in our friendship. And I think, as you say, by presenting people that have any sort of difficulties navigating life, whether it's health problems, mental health problems, physical health problems, disabilities, whatever it is that hinders normality, is incredibly important. And it's not a case of just including people for the sake of it. It's opening a door up to the inside of people's heads, and it's easier than just dealing with a person that you know.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good way of thinking about it, of like, with media, especially books, you are sort of putting yourself either straight up in that character's situation, or you're attaching onto them, like, that's my best friend for 500 pages, so I want no harm to come with them. And I think it does help gain a little empathy with those situations and a little understanding. And I think one thing I always feel is more important about it as well is not making it the story.
Yeah.
Like, it can be, they all have their place as a story, but when that's the only representation, it does sort of take away a little for it to me, because then it makes it feel like, oh, this is your big one-off event and then you're fine. Whereas I think it's more interesting when it's just a part of a person. So whether they've gone through, as an example, the one I'm currently writing is for kids, and it has a raven, has a raven called Poe, and he has anxiety because he used to be a servant of death. And so he constantly sees both worlds, the afterlife and current life. So he's just constantly stressed about everything. And it's not so much a case of that's his story. His story is overcoming anxiety. It's just he has his own story, which is the book. But this is how he would approach it with those feelings. So it's sort of making it just, it's a facet to who he is, rather than his journey is overcoming it and that's the end.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying, and I think I find it most interesting when you take an unbelievable scenario. Like, so let's say, I'm going to give another book as an example. So Dark Bloom by Molly McCarb.
Yes.
Is like apocalyptic. Have you read it yet?
Yeah, it's very good.
Apocalyptic is fantastic. End of the worldy, like, there's so much shit going on, but they're also really struggling with PTSD, for example. And that comes into play in terms of how they navigate the situation they're in. Those those plot points are so fun to me. Not fun, it's obviously awful, but there's so much more interesting to read, as you say, rather than like, here's the whole thing and it's just about that bad thing. It's like, no, real people every day go through the same scenarios as people that don't have these problems or these challenges in their life. And this is how they have to challenge themselves to get past it so that they can achieve the same thing as you. And to me, that's very cool.
That story is actually a really good example, I think, of it's not about PTSD, that story, but
Mm-hmm.
it feeds in so well for how those characters are surviving, how that mindset deals in that horrible situation.
Mm.
And that's when I think the representation is at its best, when it's
Yeah.
there is no end point for them. There's ups and downs
Mm-hmm.
like there is for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just like a slice of life for it.
Books are so cool. Fucking love them. Obsessed. I didn't used to be. I went through this phase of like reading every day, and then I just stopped for years. And then meeting all these indie authors and people that self-publish and people that you can actually talk to about their work, like yourself, it has done something to me. I don't know what it is. I've become this like all consumer of books, and I read so many books a week, and I'm like, give me more books. I've turned into this monster. I'm a monster for reading now, and it's crazy because there's so much more depth to people's work when I can talk to them about it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that made me latch on to Stephen King as an author was
Mm-hmm.
I'd bounced off him as a kid to being like, oh
Mm-hmm.
no, these are very big books, they're very dry, not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got Pet Cemetery once because cats, I'm there. And the particular one I had a little preface by him where he talked about the real life inspiration to it. And just
Mm-hmm.
reading those few pages where he's talking about where his mind was with it, what made him do it, how
Mm.
the real life fed into that story was straight up terrifying in itself. But then it made me immediately latch on to that story. And
Yeah.
that's also why I've since become quite devoted with my own books to be like, oh, I'll put the little behind the scenes thing at the end to be like,
Mm.
here's the colour to it. Because I think it does sort of add a lot to someone's work when you can go, it's fine to just read a book and ignore it. So I'm not saying
Yeah.
everyone, you must always read mine because it's
Mm-hmm.
just the same waffle you get in here. But I do think sometimes when you attach to that author, it
Mm.
does change how you're reading that book.
It does because it makes them more human.
Yeah.
Like when you pick up a book, you know nothing about you don't even have to know what the author looks like. That part is not important. But what's important is, like, as you say, what was your mindset when you wrote it? To me, anyway. I want to hear about the troubles that you had with it. I want to hear that, you know, when you were writing a particular character, it put you in a dark space because you were really in it. I want to know those things because then when I read it, I'm like, a real person wrote this. I'm so proud of them. And it makes me so excited because then I'm like, oh, like this is a beautiful piece of art that somebody's written and they want to share it with me. That's really cool. What a nice thing. And it just makes me happy. So hopefully, I'm hoping that people will listen to these episodes and use the website and use it as a supplement to finding new authors to take a chance on, because I think it just makes it that bit more exciting when you get to know them a little better.
Well, obviously, I certainly hope so.
Fingers crossed, otherwise this would have been a waste of time. It has been such a pleasure to talk to you today, and I really appreciate you making the time to be here. I really, really do appreciate you sharing the challenges that you've had with your past and with your present and potentially your future, and you being able to share that difficulty with people to hopefully make it easier or at least make them feel less alone. And that's really important. So thank you very much for being cool.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's okay. It's hard to take a compliment.
It is.
Yeah, I know. When I say nice things to people, I can always see them going, oh, stop being nice to me. I feel like sometimes I need to follow it up with, like, you shit. Just so that people don't feel so weird about it. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to have you on. And I look forward to sharing this episode with the world. Oh, before I let you leave, You're not allowed to leave yet. Where can people find you and your work? Not your address, just the internet.
Um, Currently, my books are just on Amazon, but I am
Mm-hmm.
working on changing that. It's just a case of you have to make new editions of books to get them in. If they were
Okay.
exclusive now, they can't be. So
Mm-hmm.
that information will change and hopefully be available once this episode is out.
Excellent.
But that basically that and Blue Sky at that William Beck and Instagram.
I will put the links for those in the description of the episode, and I'll also put the link for your author feature so that people can see where else to get your books as well. But yeah, thank you again. It was a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure to be here.